I was never asked to be a church leader. It was just thrust upon me because I was a PK and it was to be expected. And this also meant I got almost no training. And to be quite honest, it really pushed me into a situation where I just had to learn on my own. But I did. And now I'm going to share them with you so that you don't have to suffer like I did. Here are 5 rules for effective church leadership. Number one, recognize that the church doesn't need you. We're starting off strong with this one, but I believe this is the mentality we need to have before taking on any form of responsibility. I want you to think about this for a second. Do you think God needs you to do something in the church? Not at all. If you won't do it, someone else will. Now, if you go to a smaller church, you might think you're safe from this, but you're not. If there's no one else to take on whatever role you rejected, then it's probably something that's not a priority. Okay, think about it for a second. The church has existed for 2,000 years without you, and it can go on for 2,000 more. Let's take it a step further and recognize that God doesn't need you to do his work. He can and will call on others who are more willing. In Judges chapter 4, Barak hesitates to go into war, and the glory of killing Sisera goes to Jael. Then why does God call people to work? Well, because he wants you to be a part of it. You don't have to be, but he wants you to be. I'm not saying this to make you feel expendable. I'm just trying to get you into a mentality of humility. The most dangerous thing you can do when working as a team is to act like you're more valuable than everyone else, which leads to the next tip. Number two, if you can't follow, you can't lead. In 1 Corinthians chapter 11, Paul says, "Follow me as I follow Christ." Listen, the last thing the praise team needs is a pianist who thinks they're hot and doesn't take practice seriously. A Christian who cannot humble themselves to earthly leadership will never be able to humble themselves to heavenly leadership. In fact, I would say this type of insubordination is one of the few things that will get you removed from a serving position at church. Will your leader make mistakes? Yes. Will you disagree with them? Yes. These are normal things. You're allowed to have a differing opinion, but just because you disagree with them doesn't mean you can start getting into arguments and try to prove that you're right. All you end up doing is showing everyone that you lack the emotional maturity to have this kind of role. Okay, believe me, the day you're on the receiving end as a leader will be the day you finally understand. So, how do you become a good follower? By practicing humility and grace. Stay humble and accept criticism while also showing grace to your fellow volunteers and leaders by forgiving them graciously. Number three, try everything and be okay with making mistakes. Okay, one of the greatest things about working in a church is that the entry bar is incredibly low, if it exists at all. I think the only exception to this is being on the praise team because it does help to have some musical background, but as long as you're willing to learn and put the practice in, you're good. In fact, it's a great idea to try everything before locking in. It's only by trying everything that you discover what your gifts are. As a lifetime small church attendee, I really didn't have a choice in going down this path, but because I had to serve in almost every role, I was able to develop an incredibly wide skill set. I'm sure you're familiar with the saying, a jack of all trades, a master of none. But what people often forget is the next part of the saying, which goes, but oftentimes better than a master of one. I can say for myself that being good at many things has been a blessing for me because it has allowed me to help in so many different ways. It also meant that I could fill in for just about any position if needed, which came in handy numerous times. Of course, now I have a few specialized skills and I mostly lead through those, but I wouldn't have been able to discover them unless I tried. And if you're afraid of making mistakes, so what? It'll happen. Just take it as another learning experience. You will never be able to make critical errors early on, so just take those risks. The people you work with will be there to help you, so let them. And number four, get ready to be exposed. This might be the hardest pill to swallow. Okay, think about Hebrews chapter 4, verse 13, which says, "Nothing in all creation is hidden from God's sight. Everything is uncovered and laid bare before the eyes of him to whom we must give account." All the tips I mentioned in this video are things I've learned the hard way. How? By making mistakes and being held accountable for them. The Bible uses the image of a refiner's fire in Malachi chapter 3, which is used to purify silver. To purify silver, the smith heats it in the fire, hammers away the impurities, and it's only done when the reflection is visible on the silver. In that sense, God must refine you until your life reflects him. So every time your mistakes bite you in the butt, I want you to imagine God whacking away at you with a hammer. Getting hit with a hammer in any context sucks, but understand it's actually helping you. Do you think I enjoyed all those one-on-one conversations I had? Because I didn't. They were so uncomfortable at times, but I also knew that this is what I needed. And now that I've had these conversations, I can say that I've changed for the better. Do I still need them? Once in a blue moon, but I've made a lot of progress. And lastly, number five, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. This is a quote by Rick Warren, and I think it's fantastic.
Say that again?
What a relief that it's not about our ability. Think about it for a second. Who would genuinely be qualified to serve God? No one. How can any of us sinners say we can work with a perfect God? Good thing that's not how it works. Think about the story of Gideon. He admitted that he was the weakest of the weakest, and yet God chose him to free the Israelites from the Midianites. Literally, all he had to do was be humble and obey while God worked through him. Same scenario with David. Youngest of 8 brothers, might even have been an illegitimate son according to some scholars, yet God chose him to be the next king of Israel. All David did in response was obey. There are only a few things a parent can say to their child that are more encouraging than, don't worry, I'm going to help you. When God calls on you to do something, nothing can go wrong if you just follow Him wholeheartedly. Trust in Him, knowing that He's going to be with you through the whole process. Those are my 5 tips on effective church leadership. Do you agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you found this video helpful, whether you are just beginning to serve or preparing to go into a leadership position. And let's keep fighting the good fight. In fact, I would say that this type of insubordination, wow,